Seems like you must have just a tremendous agent, or she has a tremendous client, some their combination thereof, that you're getting this great IP work because you've got the Shuri graphic novel, you've got your Star Wars story. I assume you've got other IP that you can't yet talk about that's somewhere in the pipeline.
Definitely. And the interesting thing about some, because like first off, my agent is amazing, but also like the Star Wars one, actually they reached out to me for that one. Like directly, like Jennifer Hennell, she was that editor on that. She literally DM'd me because she saw me come screaming about Star Wars on Twitter, and she's like, "Hey, we're putting this together. Like, would you be interested?" And I was like, "Oh, Star Wars, yeah." So it's definitely been like a give and take of like my agent finding opportunities to hear about them, and then also like my platform I built up, reaching people in the industry and being like, "Hey, she might be a good fit for this."
And you're a mega Star Wars fan, right? We were talking all of our love for nerd stuff earlier, but is Star Wars like what's the highest level of, like, for me, the highest level of my nerddom is Batman. I love everything else, but that's the peak for me. Is Star Wars your peak, or what is your peak?
I actually wouldn't say it's my peak because it's weird. I feel like I've known very intensely for Star Wars, but I'm always honest about this. Like, I'm someone who, up until like very recently, had only seen the movies, and I kind of just knew tangentially what was happening in like Clone Wars and some of the shows, right? So like, I'm not even as like I loved them so much, but I'm not as deep as like someone who could tell you like on random pages of the Obi-Wan Kenobi novel from 2003, what does Qui-Gon Jinn say on page 476? I can't tell you that. But for the peak of my nerddom, that is such an interesting question. For a long time, it was Bat Family, like not even just Batman, but Bat Family specifically, because I love the Robin. I love Jason Todd. I love that. Some other things that would, I'm like looking back here at my shelves because I know books for a long time. Anime, and I am obsessed with anime. I love Naruto, My Hero Academia, Ouran, High School Host Club, Fruits Basket. Like I think anime is a big one. I love cartoons, Over the Garden Wall, Steven Universe. Like I'd say like the peak of my nerddom is actually going to be more towards cartoons and anime and books, but I'm just such a big nerd of all of it that it all kind of melds together. But Bat Family is really up there just because it meant so much to me when I was young.
That reminds me, I missed my opportunity earlier when we were talking about James Gunn, but Mr. Gunn, I assume you're still listening. Now that you're in charge of DC, give us that Leslie Grace Batgirl movie. I can't wrap my head around there being a Michael like Leslie Grace Batgirl movie in existence, and I can't see it. Are you out of your mind? Give it to us.
I feel like the problem is it might be even above James's head because the decision was made by David Z, whose last name, the ZAS, like LAV, him, the new CEO there, and he did that, made that decision before. Well, I don't know when James was brought on, but at least before James was announced he was head of DC. And so even if James wanted to release it, I don't know if he can.
I mean, I never thought we'd see the Snyder cut, and we did, and it was worth it. It was such a nice moment of validation for a fan because it was like, oh my god, if it comes out and it's terrible, what have I done with my tweets? What have I done? What have I devoted this much energy to? But then it came out, and it was, oh my god, it was the miracle I hoped it was. Woo! And I feel like that's going to be the case with Batgirl. I have to hope and believe we live in a world where we're going to see Batgirl, and it's going to be everything that I know it should be.
I truly hope because like if this is there's like a conspiracy theory that this is all a very extended PR stunt so that to like build up hype for Batgirl similar to how hype for the Snyder Cut was built. And I'm like, if this is true, like I try not to follow online conspiracy theories because I think it's a thin line between like fun ones and then actually like dangerous violent ones. But I'm like, if that is true, that is the most convoluted promotion tactic I've ever heard in my entire life.
Well, that might be brilliant since they had to delay Flash since Ezra Miller is being very Ezra Miller anyway. If you know it, I assume they can't do Batgirl since Michael Keaton's continuity won't be explained until Flash comes out. And you know, if you have Michael Keaton back as Batman, you don't cut him out of the movie. Come on. So maybe you might be right. The conspiracy. Oh my God, you have spread a ray of hope to my heart that maybe that is true. That once they get Flash sorted, Batgirl will come out like, okay, fans, you asked for it. You're all going to show up to the theater because you've been demanding it for a year. That you're playing games with my emotions, WB. But okay, I can live in that universe.
Exactly, and it's like it just seems like so much work like for a movie, especially because like Batgirl was straight to HBO Max. It was never going to be in theaters anyway. So like to do all this for a movie that was never going to be in theaters anyway, just if they pulled it off, that would be very impressive from a marketing standpoint, but it also just seems like there's so many ways it can go horribly wrong that I'm like, it's easier for me to believe that they just cut it for money.